It's hard sometimes to motivate teams when times are good. What about right now when we might have fewer incentives to be working with? This is really, really hard. And it's a situation that we're all facing, whether we're a small business owner or a corporate manager or an HR leader or an executive. We are facing this time where we have less to play around with. Bonuses are a little bit lower. Raises are more difficult to commit to. Promotions might be quoted and you might not have space to be making a lot of the moves that we used to know that we could always promise to folks. Now, how do we motivate our teams when we don't have the same incentives? When they potentially had access to those same incentives and now they're gone? And this is really, really important to figure out if we want to keep our high performers. Because, yeah, I don't know if you've heard, but you're lucky to have a job. That's not doing it for people anymore. And I get it. It's hard right now. If you're an A player or a senior person in your company, it's scary to go back on the job market. There are a lot of people out there looking for good jobs. And it doesn't mean that's motivating your teams, because then you get into this quiet cracking zone, which we've talked about on the show, which is when high performers stay and they start to quiet quit. They start to do less. They bring the morale of the team down. This chips away at the productivity, at your team's culture. Your lower performers, they start slacking off even more. And you've really crushed the soul of your team and destroyed productivity. Okay, so like you're lucky to have a job is not the line of choice. So what do we do instead? That's what we're going to talk about in today's show. I'm Lia Garvin, and this is the new Manager Playbook podcast, where I'm on a mission to make managing your team the easiest part of your job. And yeah, with these, slimmer incentives, with promotion quotas, with bonuses constrained, with resources, with not ability to hire backfills, it's like we're out of options as managers in many cases. Even if you're a business owner and you could, grant any raise or promotion or title change, your budget is limited. You have resource constraints. And my middle managers listening, a lot of times we don't have access to be able to promise really a lot. It's decided maybe 1 or 2 or 3 levels of the ladder above us. So we're here trying to motivate a team and we don't have a ton of influence over the incentives. That sure is a hard place to be in, and I've been there. And it sucks because your team's looking at you, thinking you have more power than you have. You don't want to say, well, I don't really make any decisions, because that doesn't motivate any confidence in them, but you kind of don't. So what do we do? And this is something I said, we're facing this whether we are a business owner, like a kind of first-time manager, an HR leader, anything in between, that we have to motivate with constrained incentives. So that's our context here. Now, the old, you're lucky to have a job, talking about, well, the work's really exciting, things like that. Like these things don't really do it for folks. So I'm just going to go ahead and just say, okay, yeah, they're lucky to have a job. Great. Cool. Thank you. But this isn't going to keep folks operating at their best. Firing on all cylinders. This is not going to keep, your high performers really motivated and stepping up and out, right? A 10Xer means they're doing 10 times the amount of work as someone else. So how do you keep a star performer over delivering when they know they're not going to get that payout at the end? Or maybe they wonder and you can't commit to that. So here's what we got to do. We have to show our team member that we are invested in their growth in other ways. Now, this doesn't mean we're like, hey, don't worry about money. Don't worry about this, right? We're not undermining what is important to them. We're not belittling it. We're not gaslighting them, okay? But we are saying, given the constraints, right? Just like we talked about with dealing with setbacks or talking about change, we acknowledge the situation, given the constraints. Here are some ways that I really want to invest in you, or that you can invest in your career, or that you can get exposure, you can get visibility. Now you start to plant the seeds with your team members around what's in it for them sticking around. And again, it's not like an ultimatum that they're threatening you with. It's not like, okay, do this or leave, or this is the only thing I have. This changes the conversation with your teams. They see that there's more than the one thing that they maybe had their eye on. You don't say that thing's not important. You don't say that's not even attainable, right? It's saying, hey, as we move you closer to this, here's some stuff over here that we're also going to be building up. because I've seen it firsthand when our manager, I've been there, when a manager invested in me in building skills, whether it was around public speaking or some of my facilitation skills or, learning, taking manager training so that I was ready when it was time to be a manager. When my managers invested in me in that way, without giving me any extra money or bonus or even turning me into a manager at the time or giving me a promotion, I saw a path and I said, okay, so this person believes in me. There's something to stay for. There's something to be here for. I have a path I'm working on, right? This person values me. And when we can't give folks the money that they want or the promotion that they want, the immediate thing that comes to mind is no one values me. My work doesn't matter. I'm invisible. Like, forget it. Why am I even here? Okay. Like, that's what they're thinking. I'm just telling you that flat out. That's what's happening. So we got to show them why they're here. And what I see so much is all of this talk, especially business owners, but I'm seeing it in the corporate world too. Actually, just as much. Both are at fault to that. Like, leadership in corporate and business owners talk about how tough times are. They talk about how, a business owner might say, I'm not even paying myself. A leader might say, hey, everybody's pulling back. Everybody's constrained. We can't get backfills. We can't get this. Your team looks at you, whether you are one rung higher in the ladder or you are C-suite, SVP in a Fortune 100 making millions of dollars. They see you and they think this person has a better deal than me right now. They think that. And they think that even when the resources are constrained, that you, the manager, again, one rung or 10 million rungs higher, is getting something that they're not. That is human nature. We see someone, they have, like, they're, because by virtue of you being senior to them, you have something that they don't have. You're definitely getting paid more, right? We have to understand the context. So when we are talking about woe is me, the business is tight. We can't, we have cuts here. We got shareholders, all this stuff. Think about the shoes of the person you're telling. This might be an entry-level employee. They have really maybe very little understanding of how revenue works or profitability or shareholders or, share price, any of this. They don't have that understanding. And yeah, I think our employees should have some better business acumen in many cases, but we're looking in their shoes right now and we're thinking, what does this person care about? And that person cares about themselves and what they're getting. And they're thinking about what they're not getting. Again, because if you are telling a team member, last year you got a raise, this year you got a 5% raise, this year you're getting a 2% raise, but you did just as well. But you did a great job. It's just that there's less, the company's giving out less money. The person's like, what? I got screwed. And how do I know? This happened to me working in a Fortune 100. Star performer, same performance ratings, raise was less. Did I feel more motivated? Because that Fortune 100 I worked in, they were still doing pretty good. Just looked at the stock market, wasn't struggling. So why? Right? This is the thing that your team members are thinking. And what I try to do here on the show is show you both sides, right? I understand the constraints you're under. Believe me. Because again, as a middle manager in a corporate job in a Fortune 100, I did not have direct control over what my team members got paid. Promotions were decided in committees. And if this person did not have enough criteria stacked against other folks that were being evaluated, they did not get that promotion. That was something I literally had no control over. I could advocate for them, but there was a lot of stuff behind the scenes I wasn't aware of. So I have been there. I'm not belittling the struggle that you have as the leader. I want you to think about what your team member is thinking in their shoes. So they're thinking, I don't really care that the stock market is down. I don't really care that you as a business owner aren't getting paid or that it costs a lot to run a business. A lot of my clients that run a business that has a brick and mortar, a physical location, that is so freaking expensive to operate something with a physical location. The rent, the overhead, the utilities, everything. your team members, they don't care. They don't understand that. They are not concerned with that. When you say that's why they're not getting a raise because the landlord increased the rent and everything's more expensive and supply chain and all this stuff, that they're like, okay, like cover your ears, la, 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 la. Okay, what about me? What about me? Why does that matter to me? And we have to understand this. I'm telling you, because this is where we lose our team members. We make the story about things that feel abstract to our team members, and they don't care, and they feel like no one's investing in them, and they feel like it's a bunch of BS. So this is the context, and this is why I've already said it. We've got to show them how we're investing in them. We don't say, oh, rent went up, and so I can't pay you more. No. Or we don't say, yeah, we got direction from the top, bonuses are flat, or no, there's no raises. No. We say, hey, there is a lot that's going on, much of which is out of my control. I have looked really, really carefully at what I have control over and how I can help support you. Let's say someone wants to become a manager and you just can't hire another person right now. Like you can't make them into a manager. That's not in the cards. You might say, hey, I want to get you there so that when that headcount opens up, you are the first person on the list. Here's the training program that I'm going to be doing with you or putting you in, or a couple books that I'm recommending or podcasts, so that you are completely lined up. And hey, we don't have budget right now to bring someone in. So we're going to kind of create this structure of a curriculum so that when you're ready, we can do it. So read these articles, these books, like you can get real creative, and that's all free, right? You can do this for no cost. You can also say, hey, someone, they want to be promoted. So they're going to need to have eyes of leadership, right, in your team. Okay, I don't know when we're going to have promotions. I don't know if there's quotas or not. I don't know that. But what I know is when you have visibility with senior leadership, then they don't get into their committee and go like, who's Jim? I never heard of that guy, right? You want to avoid that. So I'm going to have you do this presentation, and then we're going to share it with this team, and then you can do a lunch and learn, and you can teach someone. So I want to really invest in your visibility right now so that when it's time, folks know who you are and they feel like, gosh, Jim has really been adding value. He's been in every single presentation. He did this teach backs. He's doing these lunch and learns. Like Jim, whoa, he is like legit, right? That is what you do for your teams. You invest in other ways. If you're a business owner, right? You say, hey, we don't have a ton of runway right now with growth, but I'd love you to kind of shadow me in some of this work, or another team member, or kind of create this apprenticeship program so you're learning this skill so that when I can really make the moves, you're ready to go. Now, the caveat, obviously, the natural thing that has to happen is when there's more budget, when there's some flex, when you can hire, you honor on those commitments, right? You've got to follow through. But the case is right now, that might be a year or two in the future, and that's a conversation for a different day, right? It's assumed you're going to honor the commitment. Like, let's just go with that. What we're doing right now is getting that buy-in with genuine, clear action steps. Meetings someone can be in that gives them visibility, opportunities to learn a skill, opportunities to, develop in an area that maybe they're not as strong, right? With this over-reliance on utilizing Gen AI, a lot of people got really weak at writing, at critical thinking, at figuring out like, how do I solve a problem without getting an answer? Okay, that's a skill to be developing folks in. Okay, how about prompt engineering? Right? Get someone, hey, you are going to be our resident AI expert. We know we're going to need that. And like spend a couple hours a week really getting deep. How can we integrate this technology on our team? That's a huge, huge thing that person, that is a life skill that will be invaluable for that person as they progress. To get to do that at work during work times, that person should be paying you. Just kidding. But yeah, right? You get where I'm going with that. We have so many ways we can demonstrate we are investing in our teams. If we stop at saying, well, raises are flat, we don't have it, and it's don't have this and don't have that, and the economy and the uncertainty and the overhead and the prices and the tariffs, whatever. If we say all these things at the macro to an individual that now they can't pay their own rent, or they can't take that vacation that they were waiting for 5 years to do because finally they were going to get that raise, or they can't they're whatever they're doing. That's what they're thinking about. We've got to appeal to them and the what's in it for me. And we show them, hey, there is something very, very big in it for you if you stay, if you're here, if you invest this energy, we are investing in you. Your team members invest right back. Now, this is something that it can be hard, I know, as a leader to map out for your team. It can be hard to look across, it can be like, yeah, I want to do that, but like, I don't know how that applies. Send me an email, hello@liagarvin.com. We will map this out. We will sit down and look at your teams and say, hey, what are the goals of your team members? Where could they be situated? What's an opportunity? We will do that, and you'll come away with a solid action plan for how to bring to life what I'm talking about. Because again, if it's going to be another year, 2 years where money's tight in your company, or maybe you don't know how long that's going to be, right? Because you're not a senior decision maker. You've got to do this like yesterday to re-engage your teams. I've said it before, 21% engagement in the workplace, 1 in 5. We can get this number up. We've got to do things like what I'm talking about in the show today. Reach out, hello@liagarvin.com. I am here to help you. I'm here to help re-engage your teams and take that pressure off you as a leader. See you next time.